guys, welcome back to my channel. Today on the Aspiring Home Cook, we're going to look at making a beautiful Goan style meatball curry, or what's lovingly just called ball curry. This meatball curry was one of my favorites growing up, and the recipe that I'm sharing with you today is a family recipe. Now before we go on to the recipe, if you're new here and haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel, and once you do, click on that little bell icon so that you get notified every time I upload a new video. So let's go ahead and take a look at today's recipe. So we're going to start by making our meatballs. For the meatballs, I've got half a kilo beef mince, 1 egg, I've got 1 medium-sized onion finely chopped, 2 bird's eye chilies that I've finely chopped. You can adjust this quantity to suit your preferences. Got about 2 tablespoons worth of fresh coriander leaves and stalks finely chopped. In addition to that, over here I've got 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric powder and about 1 teaspoon of Kashmiri chili powder. This is not a typical ingredient of a Goan meatball curry, but it adds loads of flavor and I've always used it. I'd highly recommend you try this recipe using this next ingredient. It's just 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. And we're also going to need some salt to taste. Now making your meatball mix is really very simple. All your ingredients get added into a large bowl along with the meat. Don't forget to add your salt to taste. And we're going to crack in the egg as well. And then pretty much all that's left to do is, of course, using clean hands, go in and mix everything together. I find that using your hands is really the best way to get everything to be well incorporated and well mixed. And now all that's left to do really is to form your meatballs. So it's pretty much taking a portion size that you're comfortable with, shaping into a little meatball. I usually try and leave them at this size. If you make them too large, they could take a little longer to cook, and that's pretty much it. But size is basically your preference. Just make sure that the meatballs cook through, so you'll have to adjust your cooking times accordingly. So we're just going to make little meatballs like this and get them ready for the curry. The meatballs have been formed. I'm just going to set this aside and we're going to move on to our curry paste or our masala. For the curry paste, here's what you're going to need. I've got 12 Kashmiri chilies here. Kashmiri chilies are fairly mild but add a nice vibrant color to the curry. If you'd like, you could also add a combination of these Kashmiri chilies and the more spicier, what they call the bedki chilies. 3 large cloves of garlic, 10 black peppercorns. I've got about 6 cloves over here, 2 inches of cinnamon, 1/3 teaspoon of saffron powder, 1 teaspoon of cumin seeds, and 1 tomato. We're going to pop everything into a blender and process this till it forms a nice paste. You can use a little water to get the process going. I'm just cutting the tomato into larger chunks to help everything move along. I usually cube it right over the jar itself, so any juices that escape can fall right back. And now you can simply add everything else in. I am going to just roughly break these chilies into 2 or 3 pieces depending on size to help them grind quickly. Similarly, you can chop the garlic into a couple of pieces if you'd like. Pop in the rest of your whole spices. I'm going to add a little bit of water and grind this to a paste. And once that's ground up, you should be left with a paste that looks like this. Now, apart from the meatballs and the masala, for the actual curry, you're going to need a few ingredients. I've got here 1 medium-sized onion that I've finely chopped, 2 small to medium-sized potatoes or 1 large potato. I've peeled and cut them up into little cubes like this. I've got a little coriander here. This is fresh coriander leaves and stalk. I'm going to chop that up finely and add it to the curry right at the very end. And I'm going to use about 6 to 8 curry leaves. Don't mind my curry leaves, they are slightly on the tender side because these are straight out of the plant in my backyard. And I've got a little tamarind here, about the size of a walnut. We're going to start by soaking our tamarind in some warm water. This will help us extract the pulp. And we're going to add this tamarind pulp to the curry according to taste. Apart from this, you're also going to need your staples, a couple of tablespoons of cooking oil and a little salt to season your curry. Alright, so let's head on over to the stovetop and get started with the curry. We're going to start off by heating a large pan. I prefer making this curry in a vessel that's slightly wider so I can place the meatballs in a single layer. So I'm going to start off with a couple of tablespoons of oil. Into that oil, I'm going to put in my curry leaves. And I'm going to add the onion. You're going to stir fry this till the onions are nice and translucent and just about start developing a little color on the edges. Once the onions have started developing a little color and have gone nice and soft, you're going to go in with your curry paste. And you're going to fry this off and cook this masala for a couple of minutes till the raw smell of the spices goes away, and you'll start to see that the oil separates just a tiny bit from the paste. At this point, you're going to cook everything on a medium heat to avoid anything burning. Once that curry paste has had a chance to fry off, that spice paste has cooked fairly well. I've just added a little water in the same jar that I blended my masala in, and I'm going to add that in now. This way you don't waste any of the spices that might be around the blades or on the inside of the jar. At this stage, you're going to add water depending on the consistency of the curry that you'd like. Now remember, as the curry cooks, it will thicken a little bit. Again, you don't want to add too much water at the start. Otherwise you'll end up with a very watery gravy. Halfway through the cooking process, you can check for consistency and add a little more water at that point if you'd like. This is what I've got right now. It's a fairly runny gravy and I'm okay with that for now. I'm going to season this with a little salt. And it's now time for our meatballs to go in. Very gently, I'm just going to place them in the gravy. You can use a spoon to do this if you'd like. Just be careful not to touch that gravy with your fingers while placing the meatballs in. Now at this point, you really don't want to stir that gravy. I just go in with that spoon and just disturb that curry a little bit, just to help the meatballs get a little submerged in that gravy. If it's not fully covered by that gravy, that's fine. It will still cook through perfectly well. At this point itself, I'm going to place in my potato pieces. Again, you don't want to crush those meatballs. I just dot that gravy with pieces of potato. Just like this. Now this quantity got me about 19 meatballs. So depending on the size, I'd say you'd get about 18 to 20 meatballs out of half a kilo of beef mince. Just one little wiggle around to get those potatoes in there very gently, and that's it. My curry's come to a boil. I'm going to turn the heat down to a simmer, pop a lid on, and you're going to let this cook for about 10 to 15 minutes. Now, your cooking time will depend on the size of the meatballs and the size of the potato cubes in there. Halfway through that cooking process, I would recommend opening the lid, taking a look at your gravy, adding more water if you need to. This curry's been simmering away for about 10 minutes. Let's open it up and have a look. At this point, the meatballs are sturdy enough that they can handle a little bit of a stir. The water level in my gravy seems perfectly fine, so I'm not worried about that. I'm going to taste it and adjust the seasoning as needed. The salt seems fine too. Now at this point, I'm just going to extract all that tamarind pulp by pressing it down between my fingers like this. Any bits of fiber or shell like this, I'm going to discard before I can add it into the curry. And now this, you're going to add to your curry according to taste. Going to pop the lid on, let that simmer away for another 5 minutes before we can take it off the heat. So another 5 minutes have passed, in all 15 minutes, and my curry is pretty much ready. You can check to see if the potatoes are done. Mine have cooked through beautifully. I'm going to turn the heat off, add a little bit of the coriander. We're going to set some aside just to sprinkle on the top, and you're ready to serve this up. Now all that's left is just a little garnish of some fresh coriander, and your meatball curry is ready to be served. I usually serve this piping hot with some rice, but alternatively you can also serve it alongside some nice crusty bread or some chapatis too. So that's it from me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's recipe. If you did, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and share it with family and friends that you think might enjoy it too. I will leave a link to the complete written recipe down in the description box below just for you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to see you really soon with another delicious recipe. So till then, take care. Bye.